Caught me in mid-drink. Okay, I'm back. You're seeing me lots today. Let's talk about the safety guidelines. These, ultra important, ladies, ultra important. You have to have every group member agree to these. I know there's a lot of them, and I told you before. Hi, Megan. I told you before. Well, maybe I didn't tell you before. I kept going to Connie. I'm like, I don't know. There's a lot here. Are people going to look at this and just go, no way? And she kept saying, Kathleen, what you're doing here is so vulnerable. You've got to have a place. You've got to have this assurance. Everybody's going to want this assurance that it's going to be safe. If you want women to share, this has got to be there. So it's here. Hi, Tirza, you're back. Oh, it's so fun having you guys here. Okay, so let's walk through it. Because it's imperative, this is a safe place, everybody's got to agree to this. Okay, now notice that I said not every woman's going to be able or ready. Okay, she may read through this and say, I can't do it. Now here's the other thing I want you to consider. Some women may look at this and they may say, I don't feel like the woman who just invited me is safe. Okay, that's a possibility. Maybe you don't feel safe. I have a feeling there's lots of women I don't feel safe too. Okay, so don't be offended by that, and prepare the other women that you're inviting. It's okay. Some women just may not feel like you're safe, or they just don't feel safe at all to share any of this stuff. So it's important that we give people space to say no and give them lots of reassurance. It's okay. This is not for everybody. And maybe there'll be another time in her life when she is ready and you can say, well, do you mind if I just share with you later what I learned? And then maybe later, if you're interested, you can. Or not. Just give her some space to say no. Okay, so the first one, each potential new member will read the following guidelines before agreeing to participate in the egg group. You have to have that in your hands before anybody else gets invited, okay? So it's probably really important that you give her a deadline. Hey, can you look over this in the next 24 or 48 hours and give me an answer whether this is something you want to do? Because if not, it's fine, but I need to pick my next person for my group. Okay? So it says if you agree to this document, sign it and send it to the person who invited you. 2, each new member agrees to read the instructions of the process of choosing new members. Okay? Everybody needs to read that and agree. That's how this is going to be done. That's part of the agreement anyway, but I just threw it in there to make sure everybody knows. All potential new members must first be discussed with all group members and agreed on together. Okay? Important. Please do not invite a girlfriend without first discussing with the other participants. I say it multiple times. I don't want you to be put in a position, I don't want anybody to be put in a position where this woman's been invited and nobody talked to you about it, and now what do? I'm sorry, you can't be in our group. I mean, awkward. So, just make sure you're very, 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 very clear about that so that is not awkward for everybody. Okay, I agree to the following. Freedom. I do not have to share my answers from the workbook. Okay, I can share as little or as much as I'm comfortable. When I don't want to share, I will respond with, I'll pass this time. It is agreed that I will not need to provide an explanation of why. Okay, there is complete freedom in this group to say, I'm not going to be responding today or on this one, and nobody gets to question her. Nobody. Oh, no responses, okay? No, I mean, if you want to say, that's great. That's it. Not, oh, really? Oh, shoot, I really wanted to hear what you had to say. None of that. Or why? Was this a really hard question for you? No. None of that. It's a end of discussion, okay? If she later changes her mind, that's great. But there should be no pressure. If you add pressure, people will stop coming. Your group will be over, okay? Okay, B, if a member chooses to pass on the question, oh, I already covered that. I will not ask for more information. I will not ask why, or even say, too hard to share today. I will not I will nod. Oh, it says I will not. Oh, I better change that. I will nod with a compassionate smile. Okay. Brevity. Okay, for the sake of the health of the group, to make sure each participant gets a chance to share, I agree to set my phone's timer for 15 minutes when it's my turn to speak. Now, if you're a large group, you may all decide 5. I put 15 minutes in here, but I started thinking about this. If you have 4 people in your group and they each speak for 15 minutes, that's an hour. That means you're going to meet for a couple hours just to get through 2 questions. And the goal for the test groups is to get through at least 2 questions per meeting. So let's talk about that. I can change that to 5. Yeah, 15 is long, isn't it, Tirza? So I'd love to get feedback from you. We can change that to 5. And I can leave it at 15. And then when your group gets together, you can say, okay, there's too many of us. We're going to have to just stick with 5. And 15 is just long anyway. So tell me what you think about that. That'll be part of the test thing too. Like, yeah, 5 minutes was long, whatever. Because some of the questions really don't require a lot of talking. And because we're not going to be really discussing what she said at that time, it could go pretty quick. But this is important. Because setting your timer is important because we know in women's groups, certain people like to talk a lot. And so my idea was, let's put her in charge of managing herself. She's going to set the timer on her phone, and when it goes off, she's done. 5 sounds good. Most questions for small groups could probably be 2. Yeah. Some of these questions, Tirza, they're heavy. They're heavy. And you might end up adding some at the end. But I would stick with what you say to start with. And then at the end, if you have some time and you say, you know what, if I said to Megan, I'm like, Megan, I feel like there was so much more there. And I would really love, see you, Megan. I would really love to hear what you have to say. Maybe you add some cushion to the end of your time and you talk then. But the idea was to put her in charge of her time. And it's an alarm that everybody can hear. Because, when your alarm goes off, you might be embarrassed. Stick to it. Stick to it. Don't let her keep going and going and going. Otherwise, it'll go on and on and on. Okay. And maybe you all just agree to that in the beginning. Like all of you say, okay, girls, we've got to really stick to this 5-minute thing. Because if we don't, we're going to be here for hours and we've got to get through 2 questions. So if we have time at the end, we'll keep talking, but let's stick to our 5. When your alarm goes off, okay? That's probably going to be one of the hardest things, I think, for the whole group. Okay, appropriate responses to trauma stories. When a member shares a particularly tough story, it includes trauma, abuse, or grief, I will respond from one of the appropriate responses to trauma. I have not written that yet. I will be writing that soon, but it's basically just some phrases. There's going to be phrases that you don't want to say. There's stuff that we say that is really hurtful, and I want people to not do that. So it's going to be a lot of don't say this. But I'll throw that together for you guys. I'll put something together and have that available to you by the time your group joins, before you meet. Okay, inviting friends. I will respect each member's need for safety and will not invite a friend to the group without first talking to other members. See, I say it again. Confidentiality. Okay, this is big. I will respect each member's privacy and keep anything shared confidential. I won't even share with my husband and kids. I'm free to share my own responses to my workbook questions with anyone I wish. Again, you can probably see why this is so important. Women are sharing stuff. They may share things they've never shared with anyone, and it's scary. And she needs to know, she needs to be assured, you will not be telling anybody else. She isn't going to find out from somebody else, my window's open, that you told her story. Sorry. Okay. Attendance. Understanding my absence significantly changes the dynamics of such a small group. I commit to attend each group meeting, come on time, and stay to the end. This is a little group. Somebody doesn't show up. If there's only 2 of you, well, you don't have a group. If there's 4 of you and somebody doesn't show up, it really does change the dynamic. So, and then I have here, the second one is, if due to illness I cannot attend, I will text all the members, and then they can decide together if they still want to meet. Okay, this puts all the responsibility on that woman and not on the facilitator, which you're kind of a facilitator, but really you're a member. And so everybody needs to take responsibility for themselves. And then you all can decide as a group, actually that works out fine. We've got a really busy schedule. So how about we just put it off next week? Okay. But the other part of that, of her having to text you all, is she has to really think about her commitment level, right? If she passes it on to you and you have to tell everybody else, and then you know, you got to deal with how to do that next. We don't feel quite the weight of our decision, and I'd really like everybody to feel that weight. They're important to this group, and I think that with the way we maintain that is this is a good guideline. Okay, I'd love to see how that works with you guys. I'm really looking forward to hearing how this goes. Okay, participation. If I find myself needing to convince another member of my way of thinking, this is straight from Straight Up Real Mamas, I will stop, take a deep breath, and say, I apologize. I just realized I was trying to tell you what to do, and I'm going to stop now. This is going to happen. We just are going to do it. Some of us are going to do it more than others. Right? Like, that's when we get in groups of women, it is our tendency to help. We want to help. We want to tell you what we did, and right, but this is not, we're not doing that here. We're sharing. Okay? So it's important that we're all agreeing, I'm not going to be telling you what to do. This is not an advice group. This is, I'm sharing my stuff with you, and you're saying, oh girl, you're not alone. Okay? Let's see. I agree to stay away from should statements. Definitely want to stay away from those. Those are vulnerability killers. I agree to not bring in others, experts, authors, therapists into our conversations. You know, experts say, I will stick to I statements. Here's what I've experienced. Here's what I'm learning. If at the end of everybody sharing and you guys want to talk about this question some more, and as you're sharing, you find yourself starting to say, oh, you should do this. If you say those words, you just go, oops, did it, sorry. And there's not going to be any shame in the group if that happens. It's just, okay, move on. I agree not to, oh, I already said that. Okay, so sometimes we'll bring in experts and therapists, and as we all know, those people don't agree. They all have different opinions, and so there's no place for that in here. If you wanted to say, hey, I read this book, it really was helpful to me, you know, maybe be helpful to you, you could say that. Okay, I agree to not give advice unless I'm explicitly asked. If a woman says in the group, hey, you guys, I need your advice, then you're welcome to give it. But I would, even as a group, be very leery of that. Anytime we start getting in advice mode, advice mode sort of puts us here and everybody else here. It's not that you can't ask for advice. You totally can. Just be really careful. Just be really careful. If you end up in a lot of advice, you end up in a lot of times where people are giving advice, it's time to reevaluate. Okay. I agree that to be a part of this group, I will participate, share, engage with the group. Okay? So it's okay to pass sometimes, but if you have somebody who's never sharing, that's not part of the agreement. Okay? That, Connie had told me this, I didn't even know this, that can actually be a form of power to never share. And then, because everybody else in the group begins to feel like they're never sharing and I'm sharing and they know all this stuff about me. We lose that mutuality, and we want to maintain that. So if you find somebody in your group cannot adhere to this, then it's worth pulling her aside and saying, okay, notice you're not sharing, and that was one of our agreement things, is do you feel like this is still a good fit for you? And if you feel like you can't, that's okay. You don't have to, but it's really important for the whole group to be engaging. Okay, we'll talk more about that as these situations come up, but they need to be participating. I agree to quickly exit the group if I discover I'm not ready to share at this level of vulnerability. So you get in there and you're like, this is too much. I can't do it. What we're saying here is, please immediately tell the group, you know what? I don't think I'm ready for this. I love you guys. I love what you're doing, but I'm just not ready. And so we're asking people, do that quickly so that the group can find somebody else, right? Because that's going to paralyze them in some ways. If they're a group of, if it's 2 of you, it's over. And we're trying to maintain at least 4. So if you have 4 and you lose 1, then you're back to kind of square one. So, okay. And the last one is, I agree not to tell members how to feel. You shouldn't feel that way, or don't feel that way. Have you ever had that happen to you? Ugh, I don't like that. Don't tell me how not to feel. I feel. It's not something I'm in super control of. Like, it's a feeling. It came. And yes, it might be illogical, the thought process I'm having that made me have that feeling, but the truth is, I feel that way. So we want to stay away from that kind of wording. That will, again, just kill vulnerability. Okay, so that is the whole agreement. If you have any questions, something's not clear, or you think I need to add something, you're like, oh, Kathleen, you totally missed this one thing. Oh, please tell me. I would love to add it. I am going to, since I saw a change on here, ladies, I am going to make that change, and I'm going to get rid of the old one and add a new one, because I also remembered I did not put any copyright. Use only with written permission on this, and it needs to be on it. So I'll get rid of that and add another one. So if you see me delete and add another one, don't freak out. Okay. Well, Tirza, thanks for hanging out with me the whole time. Okay. I know I've got more videos coming. Hopefully you're not bowled over by the amount, but these last 3 that I've done, super important. Love you, ladies. If you have questions, don't forget to say something. Thank you.